Alright, so picture it. It's the time of the ancients, 1983. This guy named Sakaguchi starts working at this company named Square. Not Square Enix, just Square. He's like, hey, I like making games. Let me make this type of game known as an RPG. It'll sell like crazy. His bosses at Square are like, RPG? You think people are gonna pay money to walk around and fight random monsters and level up characters in a party? That would never sell. Ew, get out of here, go home. 3 years later, it's now 1986 and boom, this game comes out in Japan called Dragon Quest, made by a company called Enix, not Square Enix, just Enix. And this game is selling like hotcakes. Square is like, wait, what is happening? What is that? They find out it's this type of game called an RPG. They're like, hey, Sakaguchi, we think this RPG sort of stuff might work. You know how to make this type of game, right? He's like, yeah, I sure do. They're like, cool, go ahead and make that game. No pressure though, because the money's looking good at the company. He assembles a raggedy little squad at first because the company didn't really believe in it, honestly, but he puts in the work. And then Square comes around and is like, hey, Sakaguchi, what are you calling this game anyway? He's like, Fighting Fantasy. Hold up, copyright alert. Turns out that name is already registered. Cops come around and they're like, all right, bucko, it's time to go to jail. And he's like, wait, what? No. I didn't say Fighting Fantasy, I said Final Fantasy. The cops are like, oh, okay, then that's cool. Just as he's getting back to work, Square comes around again. This time they're like, hey, Sakaguchi, remember how we said the money was looking good? Well, we're about to go bankrupt. I'm sorry, what? If this game doesn't sell, we all lose our jobs. Sakaguchi puts in the work. Bam! 1987 Final Fantasy releases. Money calling, critical success rolling in, changing the game industry. Sakaguchi was like, man, what I've created through blood, sweat, and tears will live on forever as my magnum opus. Everyone will look at Final Fantasy as a serious game for serious gamers.
We've all been good cat girls. Please pet us, master. Okay.
Final Fantasy is immensely popular, and if you ask the fan base, it's a goated series. I just haven't played these games. I played a little of 14 because I like MMOs, but that's about it. And because of this, I feel like I'm missing out, and I hate missing out. Final Fantasy is huge. Non-gamers have heard of Final Fantasy. I recognize Cloud as a character, and I've never played the game he's from. That's wild cultural impact. Same for Sephiroth. I've never played Final Fantasy VII, and yet I know this sexy man. That's power. I feel like Final Fantasy has a deep and amazing world, and it's time for me to explore it. But if I'm gonna do this, then I'm going all the way. We're not jumping in on the modern games. No. Let us start at the beginning. Final Fantasy I. I start up the game and I'm greeted by just a smooth bit of music. Perfectly sets the tone. Ooh, I feel like I'm about to go on a fantasy adventure. What's literally insane though is that they want me to pick my full party setup before I've even played the game. What? I don't know how this game works. You really want me to pick a party setup already? The default they give me is warrior, thief, white mage, and black mage. I don't know why they racially segregate the mages, but hey, when in Mississippi, you just play along with everyone else, right? I stick with the default. I let the game suggest some names for me, and thus the 4 Warriors of Light have been born. Hubert, Rion, Glitz, and Frankie will carry me to victory. I just know it. As soon as I start the game, there's a strong sense of story and cinema. Just immediately, you are feeling the fantasy. So basically, the world is going through a tough time. 4 warriors show up to this kingdom, each with a crystal in hand. These are the Warriors of Light. They start me off in town, and I quickly realize that I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Already, I'm surprised that they aren't holding my hand. I start talking to people and figuring out the controls until I talk to this guard who's like, hey, to the king! The king tells me that basically his daughter has been kidnapped and that me and the boys are stuck on this continent until he fixes the bridge. And he won't do that until we save his daughter. Okay, this is the beginning to the story that would spawn a global phenomenon. Wild. I explore the castle, leave town, and get into my first ever battle. 3 goblins pop up and we shut it down. Immediately I was like, oh wow, I bet this game is going to be super easy. I start making my way to the evil knight with the captured princess. I fight some more goblins, I make quick work of them, but then just before I hit the castle, I run into something new. Huh? Gigas Worm? Gigas Worm? That's different. Let me just swing on these guys here. Let's see how much damage these things do. Huh? What? 28? This is my 3rd battle. What are you doing? Stop. Stop.
Just stop. Just stop it. Stop. No.
I get confused. Is this normal? I start panicking. I'm looking for items. I don't know what to do. Once it's only Hubert and Frankie, I'm like, oh, cool. I'll just have them run away. Maybe the fantasy is already over. I reload the game and I start training. I fight 5 goblins at once. We are leveling out here. Eventually, I make my way to the Evil Knight Garland and we have an epic battle. We save the princess, which makes the king rebuild the bridge, and then as soon as you cross that bridge, you get this like old school cutscene. It's basically letting you know, hey, the real game starts here. From here, all sorts of wild stuff happens. I meet this crazy lady in a cave. I find a town called Provoca. I fight a bunch of pirates. I get a ship. I find a town called Elfheim. I explore a cave called Marsh Cave, which I hated, but I got a crown. Then I fought a big old dark elf named Astos. I saved an elf prince, and then I used explosives to make the Panama Canal. I used the Panama Canal to go to Melmond and immediately wish that I never stepped foot in this place. At this point, Frankie starts putting in work. I travel some more and Frankie keeps holding me down. I love it. And then I fight a lich? I'm not gonna lie, I was scared. This guy was slowing me and doing all sorts of stuff that I didn't like. I ran around an ice cave and then I went to a desert and got an airship? After that, I was moving, baby. Listen to this music. That's how you know you're about to have a good time. I end up talking to a dragon named Bahamut, and he changes all my classes into stronger versions. I fight through the classic underwater level. I fight a kraken, then I fight through a tower, and then I go to one of the weirdest places in the whole game. Now, I was already feeling a little bit of genre dissonance from the airship. Airships can fit into the fantasy genre, but I think that the art just made me feel like it was a little different. This isn't the classic medieval vibe. And then I got to the flying fortress. The fantasy vibe was blown away. Turns out, Final Fantasy is what's called science fantasy. Now, I'm a big reader and I've read a lot of science fiction and fantasy, but if you asked me to describe science fantasy, I couldn't do it. I had to look it up. Okay, so apparently science fiction is when the improbable is made possible, while fantasy is the impossible made probable. I don't really know if that helps or explains anything, but then I found something else. A better explanation of science fantasy is explained in this quote from the wiki. Science fiction does not permit the existence of fantastical or supernatural elements, whereas science fantasy explicitly relies upon them to complement the scientific elements. Okay, got it. See, in the Flying Fortress, it's like mechanical, but it's also full of like magical stuff. I can see now that if I'm going to continue down the path of Final Fantasy, I'm going to have to get on board with science fantasy. So anyways, I fight through the machine place. I don't fight the optional mech boss because I'm not doing that, but I do fight a dragon named Tiamat. With all the orbs lit, I went back to the original castle place where I rescued the princess, and as if this story couldn't get any wilder, I step on a teleporter that makes me travel back in time 2,000 years. In the past, the club is playing everyone's favorite album, Boss Battle Greatest Hits Edition. After redefeating the Lich, Kraken, Merilith, and Tiamat, I end up speaking to Garland in the past. He sends the 4 fiends I just beat into the future and informs me that I'm stuck in a time loop. See, we killed Garland in the beginning of the game, but the fiends saved him and sent him into the past. So then he just sent them into the future, where they will keep sending him into the past over and over and over again. You gotta watch out for the time loop shenanigans. Anyways, Garland goes Super Saiyan and thus the final battle begins. I was definitely feeling the epic vibes in this fight. I mean, look at this guy, look at the background. I thought, okay, this guy's probably strong, but I can do this. And then he punched my ninja and dropped him immediately. As soon as Rion had that floor POV, I was like, okay, I might lose this. I just had Frankie holding it down with Flare and Glitz healing away. And then Glitz went down. Things got worrisome here. Chaos casts a Cyclone and gets me into a bad situation. Now I Phoenix down my healer, but he only has 1 HP after that. I know that if Chaos hits me with another AoE, I might lose this fight. On the next turn, Chaos goes before me, but luckily he decides to punch Hubert in the face, doing 625 damage to him. But Hubert is thick, so he takes it and he hits Chaos for 1,000 afterwards. Is that the 1k counter? I keep fighting, then Chaos hits me with a disrespect. He heals. He heals for 9,999 HP. Huh? Hubert goes down, but we handle it. Glitz goes down, and I start getting worried again. That's my healer. But then I look deep down and channel the power of friendship. Hubert swings his blade, hitting Chaos 16 times, and boom, I have defeated Chaos. And with that, I am the warrior who crossed time and the bringer of light. So, what did I think? Well, I'm not used to playing games that offer so many restrictions. I couldn't change the members of my party. I had to choose party composition before I had even played the game. I didn't get a list of subclasses that I could choose from, or, RPG skill trees to customize my characters with. And yet, I think those restrictions increased the strength of the game's archetypes. I really felt like my damage-dealing wizard was a damage-dealing wizard. No one else in the party could do what he did. No one in the party could heal like my white mage. No one could tank like my warrior. And no one could... Okay, yeah, the ninja archetype wasn't great in my opinion. I felt like he was a worse warrior. But for a game that's over 30 years old, I'll take that. Even with the restrictions that this game had, it was great to see just some solid game design principles shining through. I know that the idea of this game was to give you this sense of freedom, to give you a world to explore, and I actually felt that here. I was excited to explore the world and see what I would find. There were several times where I would just think, hey, what's over there? And I would go see it, and it was just fun. I played Final Fantasy I for about 15 hours over the course of 4 days, and I loved it. Now, in the modern context of gaming, any video game that doesn't provide literally 7 quintillion hours of enjoyment is terrible, and you shouldn't even consider playing it. But I had a great time here. I didn't play Final Fantasy I on the NES back in 1987, but I can see why it spawned such a long-lived franchise. Overall, I loved it. I'm late to the party on Final Fantasy, but I'm here now. For me, onward into Final Fantasy II. For you, the video's over. Go do something productive. Okay, bye!